real numbers. The vocabulary is very important here. Ascending means going up, least to greatest. However you want to remember that is fine, but I just think of an A, a capital A, and how it kind of makes a arrow or an arrow going upward. And that's how I imagine that I remember ascending. That may not work for you, but it works for me. Descending starts with a D like down, so it goes down, biggest to littlest. Now, as far as remembering the less than and greater than symbols, I rely on a plain number line with only a 0 on it. The greater than symbol points toward bigger numbers, and the less than symbol points toward smaller numbers. And that has worked for me the entire time I've known that. So when you are comparing and ordering real numbers, you have to take these steps. First one is the number a percent. What that means is, does it have a percent symbol behind it? If it does, leave it alone. If the number is not a percent, I don't care what it looks like. If it doesn't have a percent symbol, use Desmos to multiply by 100 to make it a percent. Finally, third, you read each number to yourself and compare in order. So let's try some examples. This first one, we want to place the numbers in descending order. That means going down. So we're going to start with big and go to small. We've put every number in the calculator, and those that do not have a percent symbol, we have multiplied by 100. So let's read the percents. 77.3%, 78%, 77.7%, or if I'm rounding, it's 77.8, and 141%. Descending, we're starting with the biggest number, so definitely 141% is the biggest, but you have to put in the original form of the number. Next, we're going to read them again. 77.3, 78, and 77.7. So again, the 78 is very easily identified as the largest, because if we're going down, just keep asking yourself the same question. Is this the biggest? Is this the biggest? Okay? Because you know that every time you pick a big one, you want to pick the next one. All right, the last two numbers we have, 77.3 and 77.7 repeating, or 77.8 if you round. Well, an 8 is larger than a 3 right after that decimal, so that means that that number is larger. So let me go ahead and get my stylus working here, and I'm going to write 7/9. Okay? And finally, we get the last one, which is the 7.73 times 10 to the -1. And that's how you put them in descending order. So let's try another one from the very top. Okay. It says Alex wrote the following numbers in descending order. So they're already in order from biggest to smallest. Which number could replace the missing value? Just like we did before, I want to just look at the numbers right before and right after the missing value. The others, you don't have to worry about. But I do want both of those numbers to be percents. The first one is already 300%, but let's change that second one to a percent so we know exactly what we're looking for. I'm going to use this button, A over A raised to the B power, just so you can see another way to do that. Okay, and then I'm going to multiply by 100, and that gives me 3.4%. So I'm going to be careful. I'm going to draw a number line. It's slanted, but it still works. 0 is here, so anything lower than 0, we're not going to use. 3.4 is right there. And then 300% is way up here. So we want something that's in the middle between 300% and 3.4%. So we're going to go ahead and use what we have in our calculator. We're going to start by deleting that number, and we're going to put in the -3 because it doesn't have a percent. That gives us negative 300, which is not a possible answer because none of our answers are going to be less than 3.4. So let's look at the next one. 4 space 1 over 2, 4.5. That gives us 450%, which is again way too big. It's much larger than 300. So let's try the next one. It's 2.9 times 10 raised to the second power. Always be careful whether those exponents are positive or negative. That gives us 29,000%, way too big. By process of elimination, we know it's D, but let's check it just to make certain because people make mistakes on tests. So let's put in 1 divided by 5. That's 20%, which is right around there. And that is between the other two numbers. So that's how you get that answer. Now let's go ahead and look at this last one. What all that red writing says is, Ruby, please remember to delete this, but I did not, so I'm just going to leave it there. This says place the numbers in ascending order, which means going up. So that means we're starting with the smallest and we're going to the biggest. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and make my stylus work so that I can drag numbers for you. Okay, so I'm going to put these all in my calculator to begin with. So 1 divided by 12 times 100, because I want it to be a percent. 33 divided by 8 times 100, because I want it to be a percent. The next one already is a percent, so I'm going to go ahead and put 2% of, so we remember. Then I'm going to type in 3.9 times 10 to the negative 1 power, and then I'm going to multiply by 100 to make that a percent. Finally, I'm going to put in the negative square root of 2 and multiply by 100. Okay? So we're going to go back and look at these, and we want to start with the very smallest number. So let's think of the obvious things first. Negative numbers are smaller than positive numbers, and the only negative number we have is the negative square root of 2. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drag that over to the first place. Okay? So that is the smallest. I'm going to come back to my calculator, and since I know that's the smallest, I'm going to delete it because I don't want to get confused and look at it again. Now I've got 8.3%, 412.5%, 2%, and 39%. Well, that 2 is definitely the smallest. So I'm going to put it next, and then I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to delete that so that it's not causing me any confusion. Let's keep going. We're still looking for the smallest, going toward the biggest. 8.3%, 412%, or 39%. Even though this has a lot of decimals, that just makes those numbers go on, but they are certainly not. That's not how you measure whether something is bigger or smaller. So we know that 1 over 12 goes next because 8.3% is much smaller than the other two. So now we have 2 left, 412.5% and 39%. 39% is definitely smaller, and then we will delete that. And finally, we have the biggest number, which is 33. Sorry about that. 33 over 8. And that's how you put things in order. And just be really careful, and you can do this every single time. And I think that's the end. Thank you.